All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay, I have text 8. Right? Oh, there he is. Hare Krishna. I knew someone was missing, I just couldn't remember who it was. I knew someone was missing, but I just couldn't remember who it was. Now I see. Here, why don't you sit over here, because he's sitting over there. Oh, you got, okay, then. No big ones left. They're all in the lounge. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On the 6th day of November 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are on text 8 in the middle of page number 573. Tamas tu agyanajam vidhi mohanam Sarvadehinam Pramadarasya Nidrabhis Tan Nabadnati Bharata Tamas Tvagyanajam Vidhi Mohanam Sarvadehinam Pramadalasya Nidrabhis Tanna Badhnati Bharata Tamastvagyanajam Vidhi Mohanam Sarvadehinam Pramadalasya Nidrabhis Tanna Badhnati Bharata Tamastvagyanajam Vidhi Mohanam Sarvadehinam Pramadalasya Nidrabhis Tanna Badhnati Bharata. Tamastvagyanajam Vidhi Mohanam Sarvadehinam Pramadalasya Nidrabhis Tanna Badhnati Bharata. You want to try it, Prabhu? Now, the one thing is, when the word two is followed by a word beginning with a vowel, then the U becomes a V. So that's tva. You say tamas tvagyana, and you pronounce it's linked to the next word. Okay, not two. It's tamas tvagyana. Try it again. Tamas tvagyana jam vidhi. Mohanam sarvadehinam. Pramadalasya nidrabhis. Tanna badhnati bharata. Tamastvagyanajam vidhi Mohanam sarvadehinam Pramadalasya nidrabhis Tanna badhnati bharata. Anyone online? Guess not. Tamaha, the mode of ignorance. 2. But agyanajam, produced of ignorance. Vidhi, no. Mohanam, the delusion. Sarvadehinam, of all embodied beings. Pramada, with madness. Alasya, indolence. Nidrabhihi, and sleep. Tat, that. Nabadhnati, binds. Bharata, O son of Bharat. Now before I read the translation, Dr. Chad, do you know how to turn that off? Okay, thanks, Prabhu. Translation. O son of Bharata, Know that the mode of darkness born of ignorance is the delusion of all embodied living entities. The results of this mode are madness, indolence, and sleep, which bind the conditioned soul. Purport. In this verse, the specific application of the word "to" is very significant. This means that the mode of ignorance is a very peculiar qualification of the embodied soul. The mode of ignorance is just the opposite of the mode of goodness. In the mode of goodness, by development of knowledge, one can understand what is what. But the mode of ignorance is just the opposite. Everyone under the spell of the mode of ignorance becomes mad, and a madman cannot understand what is what. Instead of making advancement, one becomes degraded. The definition of the mode of ignorance is stated in the Vedic literature. Vastu yatatma jnanavarakam viparyaya jnana janakam tamaha. Under the spell of ignorance, one cannot understand a thing as it is. For example, everyone can see that his grandfather has died, and therefore he will also die. Man is mortal. The children that he conceives will also die. So death is sure. Still, people are madly accumulating money and working very hard all day and night, not caring for the eternal spirit. This is madness. In their madness, they are very reluctant to make advancement in spiritual understanding. Such people are very lazy. When they are invited to associate for a spiritual understanding, they are not much interested. They are not even active like the man who is controlled by the mode of passion. Thus, another symptom of one embedded in the mode of ignorance is that he sleeps more than is required. 6 hours of sleep is sufficient, but a man in the mode of ignorance sleeps at least 10 or 12 hours a day. Such a man appears to be always dejected and is addicted to intoxicants and sleeping. These are the symptoms of a person conditioned by the mode of ignorance. So, can you go try to put some barriers between us and the clashing pots in the kitchen? We have 2 doors. Let's see if we can close both of them. Okay. Yeah, I know. I'm just kind of hoping you can come back. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnanandana-shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So that verse is a perfect purport to the purport. Okay, so Krishna is describing the different modes of nature, and he's given us a little description of the mode of goodness and the mode of passion. But you notice that in each of them, including the one about the mode of goodness, which is text 6, the word bodhnati or nibodhnati is used, meaning bondage or being bound. So whether it's the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance, they all bind. The only thing that doesn't bind is being above all the modes, actually being in pure goodness, which is a state beyond even the mode of goodness. And that doesn't bind you to this world, it binds you to Krishna. So that's what we want. We need to get bound, but we don't want to be bound to the things of this world by some variety of the modes of goodness, passion, or ignorance. So this mode of ignorance, we probably all experienced it, personally maybe, or at least through others. And I think, what is it? Madness, ignorance, and sleep. So that madness is also is often self-inflicted with intoxication. That's a very good symptom of someone in the mode of ignorance, always trying to take some intoxicant, often to escape the suffering of this material world. But instead it brings on more suffering. And so this is a very dangerous mode, and we can see all around us. You know, it's very prominent. And the laziness, the indolence, there's a movement now in China called Let It Rot. I don't know what the Chinese is. But it's so difficult. They've got an imbalance in the population. There's a lot of young people, but there are not enough jobs. And so they get an education, even they get a good college, and they come out and there's no jobs, and they struggle, and finally they just give up. They just lie down in the bed as far as possible. They stay with their parents, whatever is going on. So that's the victory of the mode of ignorance. And we have to be very careful of that, because just as, ignorance is also a perfect metaphor is darkness. That's why I say, Om Jnana Timirandasya. Timirandasya means darkness. So darkness is a kind of a metaphor literally for ignorance, for not being enlightened, for not understanding what's what. And that mode of ignorance often leads to the worst kind of sins, violence, anger. Anger is a symptom of the mode of ignorance also, road rage, and so many. And you do things in that anger is described in the end of chapter 3. In chapter 2. Dhyayato vishayan pungsa sangaste chupajayate sangat sanjayate kama. Kamat krodho vijayate krodhat bhavati sammoha sammoha smriti vibrama smriti brangshat buddhinasha buddhinasha pranashyati. So the end is destruction. And not just destruction, but total destruction, pranashyati. So it starts with the living entity contemplating, meditating on the objects of the senses. Dhyayato vishayan. Vishayan means the objects of the senses for enjoyment. Now, I never tire of pointing out the similarity between the word vishaya or vishayan and visha. Visha means poison, and vishayan are the objects of the senses for sense gratification. Sanskrit, just by studying the language, there's so much to learn. I mean, just getting a vocabulary. So this is a very important 2 verses describing the degradation of the soul without any reference to transcendental knowledge or anything, just on his own, which 99% of the people in this world are. So the first thing is dhyayato, not just seeing or experiencing, but meditating on the objects of the senses for sense gratification. Dhyayato vishayan pungsa, a person who meditates on them, and I never tire of pointing out how this is the whole, science of advertising, to try to, even a few seconds as you're driving past a billboard, to implant some desire into you, often with members of the opposite sex or something to just get your attention. Oh, maybe I'll buy that car or, visit that restaurant or whatever it may be. So the desire is planted, but you can't, realize it right away, but it stays in you. And then when you get hungry, you say, why don't I go to such and such restaurant? You may not even remember the advertisement. So that's, but even without advertising, the world presents itself in so many attractive things. So, dhyayato vishayan pruksa, sangas teshu bhajayate. Now, sangha has 2 distinct meanings. It means association, and sadhu sangha, and it means also attachment. And why is that? Because by associating with something, you get attached to it. It's desirable. So there's a relationship there. So by the meditation on the objects of the senses, attachment develops. Sangas teshu bhajayate. And then sangat sanjayate kama. And that attachment can mature, if you will, into, I gotta have it. Kama, very, very strong desire. Now it's interesting that one line is often quoted. Sangat sanjayate kama. As you associate, so you develop your desires. There's a lesson just in that one line. So you associate with devotees and you'll develop desire to learn more about Krishna consciousness, chant Hare Krishna. And I never tire. It's a perfect setup. Sorry. You go down the street, there's been a bar down there since I've been here, but they keep selling to different ones, so they have different names, but it's the same bar, So if you go into the bar and hang out, then by the environment, and then you'll develop different desires than if you hang out here. So sangat sanjayate kama. Now, when you get into the kama stage, kama krodho vijayate. When your desires are not satisfied, you become angry. Why are you preventing me from, doing this? So that's the next stage. Now, anger is a symptom of the mode of ignorance. So you're going down, you're just contemplating, you're peaceful, but you're contemplating the objects of the senses. And as you do that, the desire arises, right? And that desire, when it gets stronger, it turns into kama, gotta have it, But then when you can't have it, you can never have enough of it. you become angry. Now, if that anger doesn't have a distinct object, or then you turn it inward and become depression. Okay. So that's another thing. But this is kama krodha vijaya. Krodha bhavati sammoha, complete bewilderment. You forget who you are, you kill your brother because he looked sideways at your girlfriend, whatever. And you regret it for the rest of your life. You can do that. Anger, you can do crazy things. So that's a sammoha, completely bewildered. Sammoha smriti vibhrama. Haribo. I immediately think of the drum when I see him, the playing of the drum. Sammoha smriti vibhrama. So smriti, then you forget, you lose your memory. You forget who you are. You're some angry, furious person or something happened. Smriti brangshad buddhinasho. Your intelligence is destroyed. And the intelligence is what distinguishes us from the animals. So your intelligence is eroded by... we're on page 573, the Modes of Nature, text number 8. So, sammoha smriti brangshad buddhinasho. Your intelligence is destroyed. Too much of this sense gratification and messing around with the modes of ignorance and anger and all these things, and you can't remember anything. You can't remember who you are. You're acting in a different way, and then you do something and you're in prison. So buddhi nasho pranashyati. Not just nashyati, but pranashyati means total destruction. That is what distinguishes us from the animals, is the higher intelligence. And so using that intelligence properly to inquire into the absolute truth, to hear from the Shastra, hear from the Guru, hear from the sadhus, that's the proper use of the intelligence. Otherwise, that intelligence can be misused and you lose it. You can get born as an animal or something, So this is a very, very great science. And knowing how the symptoms of the modes is very important. And each one binds in its own way, you see. So that's what's going on here. Okay, so sleeping too much, intoxication, and other places describes, procrastination. I'll do it tomorrow, never comes. Yeah. Got to get the mic. It's in front above his head, as usual.
So even if a devotee or a member of the order is working diligently, they can still become angry under certain circumstances. How are we to respond when we temporarily forget that intelligence and become angry?
Yeah. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama. I was about to say something that I couldn't take back. I always try to... There is a place for anger. I mean, come on. The whole Bhagavad Gita is spoken on a battlefield. And Arjuna and Krishna's specific purpose is to get Arjuna angry so they'll fight. Unless he really gets angry, he won't fight. Right now, he's despondent, which is kind of a symptom of the mode of ignorance, because he can't imagine, killing Bhishma Dev and Dronacharya and all others who he's close to. There's all kinds of relatives, on the other side, and on his side also. So he's despondent because he's fallen into the bodily concept of life. He's thinking of those physical relations. Even though Krishna says, like the first verse he speaks, in the role of a guru, is telling Arjuna that nobody dies. Dehi nosmin yata dehi, komaram yopanam tata dehantara praptir. After going through childhood, middle age, and everything, and dying, then you get another body. So where is there any death? It's like taking off, and I used to this analogy, taking off old clothes and getting a new set. So what's the problem? You're afraid of killing Vishnu, but you can't kill him. You can't kill the soul. And he's such a glorious soul, he's going to come back to me, and back to Godhead. So in other words, Arjuna is standing in for us. He's taken on this role of someone bewildered by the bodily concept of life, which is what we all are. And Krishna is systematically training him to transcend that. And this section at the end of chapter 3 is really interesting, because Arjuna asked, remember the question he asked? Attikena prayuktoyam papam charadi purusha anitcham apivarshanaya balarivi niyojita. This is such a pertinent question in this age. What is it that seems to force us to do things that we even know are bad for us? Our higher intelligence is telling this is not good, but we do it anyway. So what does Krishna say? Oh, kama esha, krodha esha, rajogana samudbhava, mahashano mahapapma vidjay namiha vaidinam. Said, this is the real enemy, Arjuna, not these millions of soldiers on the other side. Here's the enemy. Is kama, which turns into krodha. Kama, which then produces rage, or what is the word he uses? I forget. But very strong anger. Krodha. Rajo guna samudbhava, born of the mode of passion. You see? Born of the mode of passion, but then it puts you in the mode of ignorance. Samudbhava, mahashano maha, is all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. This is this material desire in all its rages. So Krishna consciousness is the process of, and forgive me, you're going to use this word periodically, sublimating those desires, making them sublime. The desire, the overwhelming desire to serve Krishna is perfection. You see, because it produces it's in the mode of pure goodness, and it's selfless, but it's the highest benefit for the self. In other words, you can do that for eternity and enjoy with Krishna, anandamaya abhyasa. But the desire to serve your own senses, that's kama, and that's self-destructive. That opens the path to hell, really, surrendering to that. So that's the essence, and these modes of nature chapters are so instructive. You can easily see, I can recognize the different modes, how they're acting in me. So we need to cultivate the mode of goodness and pure goodness. Wrath. That's it, wrath. Powerful. Yeah, anger, thank you. Okay, so now he's going to say what the results of each of these modes are. Text 9. Sattvam sukhe sanjayati rajakarmani bharata jnanamavritta tamah pramade sanjayatyuta. Oh, son of Bharata. Now this word son is being used in the sense of descendant of, Sometimes the word scion is there, which is more precise. O son of Bharata, the mode of goodness conditions one to happiness. Passion conditions one to fruit of action. And ignorance, covering one's knowledge, binds one to madness. Purport. A person in the mode of goodness is satisfied by his work or intellectual pursuit, just as a philosopher, scientist, or educator may be engaged in a particular field of knowledge and may be satisfied in that way. A man in the mode of passion may be engaged in fruitive activity. He owns as much as he can and spends for good causes. Sometimes he tries to open hospitals, give to charity institutions, etc. These are signs of one in the mode of passion. And the mode of ignorance covers knowledge. In the mode of ignorance, whatever one does is good neither for him nor for anyone else. And else over there. So, I like to point out that the whole industry, or whatever you want to call it, of psychology, psychiatry, all of this, is often trying to, because there's a lot of depression around. Especially young people, they're depressed. And when I was growing up, I was very aware of things. I remember reading New York Times. I'm 8 years old. You get the Times every day. I read it for years. So I was fully aware of what's going on in the world. So to grow up today with this climate change thing going on, which is obviously going on. I think it's a fact. There's this young lady from where was it, Sweden? Gretchen something, You remember her? Yeah, Greta, And she's representative of a whole generation. What are you guys doing, you adults? You're ruining the atmosphere. Obviously, all these fires and the hurricanes and the Gulf Stream thing. I forget what it's called now, but it's a whole thing in the ocean. It's like a river in the ocean that goes from the Gulf of Mexico across Atlantic, and it takes the warm water up there, so that the weather, or the climate in UK is rather livable. It's warm enough. Otherwise, it's the same latitude as Moscow. And if it stops, which it may, because they're heating up the ocean like crazy, it's going to be a disaster for, guess what? The Indian monsoon. So you can imagine how. So the kids can see that. The 11, 12, 13, 15-year-olds are reading and said, what's happening? They're ruining our future, And so a lot of them are depressed, for many other reasons too. We're getting bullied online, and whole kinds of things, that I never had one. So what are the parents have some money, they take the kid in, to the psychiatrist, whatever. So what they would try to bring them up for, because depression is very much in the mode of ignorance, you see. You don't want to do anything, you're always sad, So to get them up to the mode of passion, so that they'll be eager to enjoy, study in school, make some money, like that. That's Whereas we're saying, no, take it a step further and come to the mode of goodness and chant Hare Krishna and learn how to really enjoy. You don't have to spend a lot of money. Just spend a little time. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And you'll find so much, unending source of happiness in Krishna consciousness. Even, in the earlier stages, you can feel is so much better, than the thing, where's the party, oh my God, where's my pills, oh my God. Or you get some pill from somebody, and it turns out it's got fentanyl in it, you die, or, it's horrible, just horrible. So it's good to know all these things. What is the effects of the goodness, passion, and ignorance here? So we did 9. Okay, 10. Rajas tamas cha vibhuya sattvam bhavati bharata rajas sattvam tamas chaiva tamak sattvam rajas tata. Sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating the modes of passion and ignorance, O son of Bharat. Sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance, and at other times ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way there is always competition for supremacy. Purport: when the mode of passion is prominent, the mode of goodness and ignorance are defeated. When the mode of goodness is prominent, passion and ignorance are defeated. And when the mode of ignorance is prominent, passion and goodness are defeated. This competition is always going on. Therefore, one who is actually intent on advancing in Krishna consciousness has to transcend these 3 modes. The prominence of some certain mode of nature is manifested in one's dealings, in his activities, in eating, etc. All this will be explained in later chapters. But if one wants, he can develop by practice the mode of goodness and thus defeat the modes of ignorance and passion. One can similarly develop the mode of passion and defeat goodness and ignorance, or one can develop the mode of ignorance and defeat goodness and passion. Although there are these three modes of material nature, if one is determined, he can be blessed by the mode of goodness, and by transcending the mode of goodness, he can be situated in pure goodness, which is called the Vasudeva state, a state in which one can understand the science of God. That's called Shuddha Sattva. By manifestation of particular activities, it can be understood in what mode of nature one is situated. So the whole point, going back again to our verse from the previous chapter, 13:22, Purushak prakatisto hi, bhunkte prakriti jan gunan, karanang gurasangosya sadasad yoni janmasu. Very pertinent to this, all these descriptions here. So Purusha, the Purusha is the living entity in the mode of enjoyment up there. Krishna is the Supreme Purusha. He's the Supreme Enjoyer, but we're imitating him, so we're also called Purusha in this context. Prakritisto, situated in material nature. Okay? Purusha bhunkte prakriti jan gunan. He experiences, I looked it up, bhunkte could be experienced, not enjoy. He experiences the different modes of nature, prakriti jan gunan, which are born out of material nature. Karanang gunasangosya, a key line. Sangha here means association, guna is modes of nature, is a cause. The cause of what? Of his entering into good and bad births. In other words, we're making our destiny by how we associate with the modes, what we cultivate, the modes we cultivate. The mode of ignorance almost lead you down, away from human life, So, sadasad yoni janma. Sadasad yoni means a good or bad birth, literally good or bad mother, whatever. So the question is, well, how can we cultivate the best mode for our future, to have the most auspicious next birth? And that's the process of Krishna consciousness. Because Krishna consciousness, really, if you practice it properly, you will cultivate this Vasudeva state, this Shuddha Sattva. Because we're meant to always be remembering Krishna, serving Krishna, and using our senses, which can be used for sense gratification, not in satisfying our desires, but in satisfying Krishna's desires. I just heard today, Prabhupada, a key verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishna's Kaviraj is defining the difference between lust, kama, and love, real love, prema. What is the kama and prema? Let me see if I can remember this. Atmandriya priti vancha dare nam kam. Krishnandriya priti itcha dare prem nam. I'm sorry, I forgot one word. So, desire to satisfy one's own senses, that's called kama. Desire to satisfy Krishna's senses is called prema. It's as simple as that. So we want to turn the kama into prema. The senses are, full of desire to satisfy ourselves. So, what's the essential part of the whole process? Prasadam, preparing, offering, and honoring prasadam, isn't it? And that was the two main things: chanting Hare Krishna and taking prasadam. So that we got to eat, right? Something. So how to eat in such a way that it doesn't just increase your material desire. Everywhere you look, whether I'd like to point out all of these supermarkets everywhere, restaurants, in the hotels, the hotels where you can go and have illicit sex and then eat in the restaurant and take a drink. Millions of people doing that. So, so how do we sublimate the eating? Well, that's the process of prasadam, right? You prepare it in the proper frame of mind, of course, the pure ingredients, vegetarian ingredients, for Krishna's pleasure. And you say, how do we know what he likes to eat? You learn. Prabhupada showed us, he taught us, okay, here's how you make the pakoras, how you do the samosas, here's the vegetables, he learned. And so there's an art to it. And so you offer it to Krishna, and then you honor it in the right frame of mind, and the taste is so wonderful, and you're being spiritualized because it's connected to Krishna. So that's a very important process of sense gratification that is then sublimated, you see. And before long, Hare Krishna, before long you find that you have no taste anymore. You can imagine eating a cow. Krishna's cows? Are you kidding? Huh. You just regret, oh boy, I remember I used to eat, I'm not going to go into my interaction with McDonald's when I was bowling, but that's, when I was 16 years old. But it was just a thing. It was, you don't think of it, But now we know, oh, this is very bad. This is paving the way to so much suffering on our part, and because of all the suffering you cause. So you learn. Knowledge is all important. You learn what is it that binds, what is it that frees you, what is it that lifts you up to the mode of goodness, what is it that pulls you down to the mode of passion. And you can recognize it in your own consciousness by reading Bhagavad Gita. So that's why this chapter is so important. And of course, then Arjuna will ask the key question, as Prabhupada hinted here: what are the symptoms? What are the characteristics of one who has transcended these modes? And how can one transcend the modes? And the last few verses of the chapter will answer those questions. So now we got, and there we see how the modes are competing in it. What's it going to take us over? That's the thing. Sometimes you'll be in a situation where you'll be, your mode of passion will be, you're driving, and someone cuts you off. So suddenly, you've been put into the mode of passion and ignorance, and you would. So how to watch that, because you have to be vigilant. What's happening with your consciousness? Am I thinking of Krishna? Am I wandering? Am I getting, like that? So that's what it means to practice Krishna consciousness, the internal practice. But understanding, how these things are going. As we know, sometimes mode of ignorance, passion, goodness, they war, All right, text 11. Sarvadvareshu dehismin prakasha upajayate jnanam yada tadha vidyad vividham sattvamityuta. The manifestation of the mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge. Purport. There are 9 gates to the body: 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, the mouth, the genitals, and the anus. When every gate is illuminated by symptoms of goodness, it should be understood that one has developed the mode of goodness. In the mode of goodness, one can see things in the right position, one can hear things in the right position, one can taste things in the right position. One becomes cleansed inside and outside. In every gate, there is development of symptoms of happiness, and that is the position of goodness. So, I guess for some of the gates, you can understand, well, if it's just you're regulated, and healthy, and you're not feeling a problem with those gates, So that's it. But clearly you can see how the ears can be in the mode of goodness by hearing transcendental sound. And the mouth is also one of the gates, so by eating prasadam, in good consciousness, and by speaking about Krishna. That brings you up to the mode of goodness and pure goodness. So this is one of the ways that Krishna is saying this is how you can see. And someone who's in a rage, the eyes turn red, right? You know what I mean? So that's one of the gates, and so this is a way of measuring it. Okay, so here we go. Lobha, greed. Lobha pavrittir arambha. Karmanam masamakspaha. Vadasyetani jayante. Vividhe bharatarshava. O chief of the Bharatas, when there is an increase in the mode of passion, the symptoms of great attachment, fruitive activity, intense endeavor, and uncontrollable desire and hankering develop. One of those is greed. I'm not sure which one. Purport. One in the mode of passion is never satisfied with the position he has already acquired. He hankers to increase his position. If he wants to construct a residential house, he tries his best to have a palatial house, as if he would be able to reside in that house eternally. And he develops a great hankering for sense gratification. There's no end to sense gratification. Remember, that's also in the 3rd chapter. It's never, kama is never satisfied and burns like fire. He always wants to remain with his family and in his house and to continue the process of sense gratification. There is no cessation of this. All these symptoms should be understood as characteristic of the mode of passion. Now it mentions greed there, so I would be remiss if I didn't share with you this nice verse from the Pajavali, which is the prayer to become a miser. You're praying to Krishna. Yeah, just listen. It says, Vichayani, Vicharyani, Vichinjani, Punak Punaha, Kripanasya Dhanani va Tvannamani Bhavantunaha. Compelled to constantly collect and contemplate his hoard, the miser contemplates his wealth with avaricious aims. Please bless me to become a miser who's compelled, O Lord, to constantly collect and count and contemplate your names. You see? Greed is good. Wasn't there a movie? It was a long time ago before I joined. So greed for Krishna is good. In fact, it's the only price to get Krishna. Right? This is a verse by Ramananda Roy, included in the Pajavali, included in the, is it Pajavali? Okay, but I think it's also in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, maybe. Anyway, so this is a very important verse because Prabhupada took the first line in this verse and turned it into Krishna consciousness. Krishna bhakti rasabhavitamati kriyatam yadikatopi labhyate tatra laulyam api mulyamekalam janmakoti chukatayana labhyate. So that first line became Krishna consciousness. Krishna bhakti rasa bhavitamati. The mind, mati, absorbed bhavita in the Krishna bhakti rasa. That's called Krishna consciousness. That's where the word comes from. So, how to get it? So this verse says, if you can find it somewhere, you can buy it. You should buy it. If you can purchase it somewhere. So what's the price? Krishna bhakti buy. Kriyatam means to buy. Kriyatam yadi kutopi labhyate. If you can somehow or other purchase it, do so. But you got to have the price. What's the price? Tatra laulim api mulyam. Laulim is a word for greed, and mulyam is a word for price. So tatra laulim api mulyam ekalam. Janma koti sukatayana labhyate. Millions of births of pious activity doesn't cut it to buy this. That doesn't help. That you go to heaven and come back, go to heaven and come back. So the price is to get the greed for it. So how do you get that greed? That's through association, through chanting, through association, through pilgrimage. Everything we do, Krishna consciousness, is meant to attract us more and more to Krishna. So we're so greedy for his association and for rasa that we don't want anything else. That's what it takes. Otherwise, you can become greedy for the things of this world. You just have to sublimate it. You missed that part of the class. Sublimate the greed. So here's lobha, pravittirarambha. So this is his incessant mode of passion, the symptoms of great attachment, and so forth. 13. Apakasho pavittischa pramado moha. I'm sorry. Apakasho pavittischa pramado moha evacha tamasetani jayante vividhe kurunandana. When there is an increase in the mode of ignorance, O son of Kuru, darkness, inertia, madness, and illusion are manifested. When there is no illumination, knowledge is absent. One in the mode of ignorance does not work by a regulative principle. He wants to act whimsically for no purpose. Even though he has the capacity to work, he makes no endeavor. This is called illusion. Although consciousness is going on, life is inactive. These are the symptoms of one in the mode of ignorance. So that's a very dangerous mode. So we should try to avoid that as far as possible. Yada sattve pravidhetu palayang yati dehabrit tadottama vidhan lokan amalan pratipadyate. When one dies in the mode of goodness, he attains to the higher planets of the great sages. Purport. One in goodness attains higher planetary systems like Brahmaloka or Janaloka, and there enjoys godly happiness. The word amalan is significant. It means free from the modes of passion and ignorance. So amala means very pure, free of mala. There are impurities in the material world, but the mode of goodness is the purest form of existence in the material world. There are different kinds of planets for different kinds of living entities. Those who die in the mode of goodness are elevated to the planets where great sages and great devotees live. But we don't want to go there, right? That's just a postponement. What is that famous verse from chapter 9? Chine punye majalokam vishanti. What is the first part of the verse? Anyway, it says they enjoy like anything. But then when your punya is used up, you come back to this word of death. Evam tihi dhamma manu papanna gatagatam kama kama lamante. Thus, by going to the heavenly planets, you have to be in the mode of goodness and practice all these sacrifices. And then you go up there and enjoy godly delights. Tetam bhuktva svarga lokam vishalam. That's the first line. Chine punye marcha lokam vishanti. Evam trahi dhamma. The trahi dhamma means the Vedas, following the Vedas that give you karma kanda rituals to go to heaven. Trahi dharmam anupapanna gatagatam kama kama labande. You go and come trying to satisfy these desires. So you haven't made any progress. You've wasted so much time. You got to stay up there for thousands of years, enjoying, And then you put in one credit card. He said, "Sorry, do you have another card, Mr. Dravida?" No. Down. You go down the more you look. No, thank you. Well, that's what it says. Chine punye. When your punya becomes skinny, when it becomes used up, it's like, yeah, you get pious credits. Well, right? It's all material. You get enough pious credits, you go to Indraloka for a long, long time, but eventually your credits are used up. Down you go. Oh, and Dharma Setu once told me, I think Dharma Setu told me this, that there's somewhere in the in the Shastra, not in the Bhagavatam, describing what happens when you finally fall from the heavenly planets. Apparently, on the way down, the Rakshasas attack your body, and you're eaten on the way down. And then you finally land, in the field somewhere, and you're dead by that time. But your soul comes out and enters into some grain, and you're eaten. And then the man, impregnates the woman with the grain, and that's your next birth. Does it sound like fun? Oh, we go. You can enjoy like anything in the heavenly planet. Let's forget about the last part. That's the whole point. To, nunam pamatta kurute vikam indriya pisaya. All right, text 15. Vajasi palayangat ba karma sangishu jayate tata palinas tamasi mudhayonishu jayate. When one dies in the mode of passion, he takes birth among those engaged in fruitive activities. And when one dies in the mode of ignorance, he takes birth in the animal kingdom. Purport: some people have the impression that when the soul reaches the platform of human life, it never goes down again. This is incorrect. According to this verse, if one develops the mode of ignorance, after his death, he is degraded to an animal form of life. From there, one has to again elevate himself by an evolutionary process to come again to the human form of life. Therefore, those who are actually serious about human life should take to the mode of goodness and in good association transcend the modes and become situated in Krishna consciousness. This is the aim of human life. Otherwise, there is no guarantee that the human being will again attain to the human status. So this is one of the nice things to think about as we just practice Krishna consciousness and invite people to come and so forth. Anyone who does a little bit of Krishna consciousness will get a human form of life. That's proved by Neha Bhikramanasosti, Pratyavayo Navidyate, Svopamapyasya Dharmasya Trayate Mahato Bhayat. That in this practice of Krishna consciousness, there's no loss or diminution. Pratyavayo Navidyate, Neha Bhikramanasosti, Pratyavayo Navidyate. Nasha means destruction. There's no loss or diminution. So even a little of the advancement on this path protects one from it says in the book, from the most dangerous type of fear. I've researched this. Bhaya can also mean danger, fearful danger. Yes, bhaya means fear. That's the usual, but it can also mean fear. And that's what it means in this verse. Mahato bhayat. Great, not just fear, but fearful danger. And that's the way we're going to, because that's what Prabhupada meant. Whenever he explained this verse, that's the way he said it protects one from the most dangerous type, the most fearful type of danger. He didn't use the word fearful, but the greatest danger. So what is the greatest danger? To lose the human form of life. You come up, and after many, many births, right, there's verses like that. And finally with the human form of life. And if you misuse it tragically due to bad association or ignorance or whatever, down you go. Into the lower species, and up. It'll take a long time, millions of years to finally go. So the treasure, the human form of life. Labdva sudurlabhamidam bahusambhavante manusham artadam anityam apiya dhira. Turnam yateta napateda namityavad nikshayasaya vishaya kalasarvataksat. Such an important verse. Having attained, I think Krishna speaks this verse, if I'm not mistaken, in the Bhagavad Gita. I'm not sure. Labdva sudulamamidam. You have attained, the very difficult to attain, sudulamamidam, bahusam, after many, many births, bahusambhavante, what? Manusham, same word, human form of life. And this artadam, it can give you the ultimate valuable thing, which is liberation and return back to Godhead. But like all forms, it's temporary. Anartadam anityam. Anityam is, nobody has a permanent physical, material body. So one has to be dhira. He has to be sober-minded, thoughtful. And what's the conclusion? He gives you a hint in the next line. Turnam, without wasting any time. Don't think it over. Just take the advice. Yateta, strive. Turnam yateta napateta anumritya yavat. As long as you haven't died yet. And this word anumrityu, I take it to mean death is always following you on the shoulder. At any moment. You never know. So he says, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. Maybe I'll do it next week. I have a big thing coming up. Maybe next month I'll take it. No. Turnam. Turnam means immediately. What is that verse? Chaktva turnam ashesabandana. The 6 Goswamis, they immediately gave up their material life and surrendered Lord Chaitanya and went to Vrindavan. So turnam yateta, strive. As long as you're alive, strive. Hey, that's the seed of a poem. Turnam yateta nabadeta namityavat. Strive for what? Nikshayasa. Not even shreyas, nikshayasa, the ultimate good. Freedom from bondage to the material energy, from the modes of nature, and going back to Godhead. Nikshayasaya vishayakarasabatakse. Because after all, in all those other forms you've been through, you experienced all these sense gratification. So you've been there, done that, what did it get you? Another birth, another death, So give up all that and strive for the ultimate good by finding a bona fide guru and reading the bona fide books and good association. And in this way, stay above the lower modes and develop the mode of pure goodness. That's what's mentioned here. All right, we're going to have to spend another day on this chapter or two. So how far did we get? 15, right? All right, so there's 16. And I've left a few minutes for... You want a question? Go ahead. But you need the mic. Somehow we only have one mic today. Oh, you have the other one. Okay.
You got to ask a question.
No. She never asks a question. Go ahead, Boo.
So is it a manifestation of attachment to the senses whenever we eat in a restaurant?
Yep. Well, unless it's a Hare Krishna restaurant. We have a few of those. We used to have one here. Well, yeah, because, has the food been prepared, with love and devotion? Is it been offered to Krishna? Is it vegetarian? No, there may be some vegetarian restaurants. We used to have actually some Hare Krishna restaurants here, and there's some of those. But that's a different thing. Yeah, because that's the whole idea, is that, Buddhists know this, that the consciousness of the cook goes into the food, and then all kinds of unmentionables are in the food. So sure, it's a manifestation of ignorance and passion. And it's not going to help. I'm going to stay clear of those restaurants.
And so convenience is no excuse if you're traveling or if you're between obligations for work or something. That's not an excuse, I take it.
Well, no. The best thing is to plan ahead and pack a lunch, that you yourself have prepared nicely and offer to Krishna. Or if you're in LA, or Long Beach, right? Ahimsa restaurant. There are Hare Krishna restaurants around, if you happen to know. But yeah, the eating thing has to be, the best thing is to learn how to cook simple preparations and offer them, and things that you can also pack if you need to, and that way you stay free of that, because that's a big way of, offending Krishna and harming your consciousness by just eating stuff you get, if you have to, I would go into a supermarket, and you can buy fruits and nuts. Those can sustain you quite a while. They're substantial. You can have raw cashews. Crazy for raw cashews. I offer them, and things like that. But the best thing to do is learn how to make simple preparations and learn how to you can pack them up like that. So, important. All right, poems. All right, someone here maybe hasn't heard this poem yet, and if you have, you can hear it again. Where Krishna lives, felicity abounds. With pure simplicity and loving sensibility, all serve him with humility. But when a living entity rejects his true identity and out of sheer stupidity surrenders to cupidity, he loses all sagacity and with it all capacity to understand reality or curb his sensuality. Abandoning humility, he touts his own ability, forgetting his fragility and fortune's volatility. Immersed in asininity for what seems an infinity of lives devoid of piety, he suffers in anxiety till contact with God's devotee, perhaps of utmost brevity, awakens his affinity for words of the divinity. Perceiving the futility of all his imbecility, the soul regains his sanity and casts away his vanity. Endowed with new humility, he serves with all ability and growing sensibility and growing spontaneity. his guru and the deity. Regaining his identity, the wayward living entity returns to the fraternity of Krishna for eternity. There it is. All of us are on that parabola somewhere, hopefully on our way back. All right, time to prepare for the artik. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.